right, fellow babies. I'm still moving. Fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter on SIFTD.net. You know, I've had a practice, because Shane is such a pain in the ass, of doing a bold prediction every week. And I have to say, I just don't have that many predictions that are bold. I mean, it's like, I'm tired of the whole Captain Obvious thing. It's like, yeah, okay, guess what? Call of Duty's coming out this year. You know, Battlefield's coming out this year, even though they haven't announced them yet. So I really just can't do it. I think I could maybe do 10 or 20 a year, but 50's too much. So I'm just taking a breather this week and maybe other weeks. I'm tired. I got a cold. I've been trying to catch up on Fallout since I had to give back 8 levels. And so I'll think about some bold predictions a week ahead of time. Next time I tape a slew of these, I'll have some next time, but I'm not going to have this in this set of shows. But anyway, we're back. Thanks for joining us on SIFTD.net. Get a subscription, $30 a year. It's worth it. If you're watching on YouTube, that's cool. I want all my fellow babies to enjoy as much Pachter loving as possible. We're going to go into questions. Our first question comes from SIFTD from Suited Armor. If you could go up and slap some sense into someone for a bad decision they made in the games industry, who would it be and why? Wow, what a loaded question. So many bad decisions in so little time. You know, I would say, and I genuinely like this guy, so I really feel bad about this, but I would say the worst decision I saw in the games industry, and it was a series of decisions, but was the way THQ managed a $400 or $500 million cash surplus into a $300 or $400 million debt liability. So they literally burned through about $800, $900 million bucks of cash in 3 years. And what they were doing wrong was they were pursuing a declining, business. They were pursuing a strategy of making licensed, kid-friendly games for handhelds and Wii. And so they did, a bunch of Pixar stuff, and they kind of backed that up with other equally bad kid stuff. They came up with U-Draw and chased it too hard. So those were all dumb. But the thing that they did, I think, that was worse was when they realized that the kid strategy was failing, that each Pixar movie, like WALL-E, just wasn't as big as Finding Nemo or Cars, and I forgot what came after WALL-E. Up wasn't as big as WALL-E, and it just kind of kept getting worse and worse. They decided to swing hard the other way, and so they started going hardcore into hardcore gaming. And among the decisions they made there, they pursued stuff like Juiced, which was terrible. God, I forgot the other one. Was it Driver? That was Atari.
Devil's Third.
Yeah, Devil's Third. They signed up. They were doing the Warhammer MMO at the same. Now again, they weren't the only guys. If you remember, Kurt Schilling was making an MMO. EA was making the Star Wars MMO. Everybody equally marched off the cliff together, but MMOs were dying. But THQ, who'd never made an MMO, was chasing it, and there were just so many big, expensive, bad decisions that the good things that were left behind, like WWE, just weren't enough to save them. And so, if I could slap some sense of them, the easy decision they made that was a bad one, that I called them out for and they got mad at me for, was U-Draw on next-gen consoles. Like, they put U-Draw on the Wii and it did pretty well, and then they figured U-Draw 2 would do equally well on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and would also do well as the second version on the Wii, and it failed miserably across the board. They spent a lot of money marketing it. It was, essentially a flash-in-the-pan fad on the Wii, and nobody wanted to draw on an Xbox 360 screen or PlayStation screen. So bad mistake, very expensive, and when they failed quick. I mean, it took them less than a year to just kind of go out of business. So they're the ones, I'd say, that made the worst decision. I mean, there are so many, we can we can talk about bad games, or we can talk about bad people who were mean, but frankly, I forgive most people for bad games because it happens and you do the best you can. I don't forgive bad strategic decisions that put you out of business. I mean, that's bad. And following up on a question we answered last week, I don't remember how many employees THQ had, but it was thousands. And they're all unemployed now. I mean, I'm sure they have jobs elsewhere, but all those people lost their jobs. So that was really disruptive to a lot of families. And so those bad decisions have real consequences, as opposed to, putting out another crappy NBA game. If you're EA, who cares? There's another good NBA game made by Take-Two, so who cares? So you can play 2K, NBA 2K instead of NBA Live, and nobody really gets hurt by the game sucking. But my God, it sucked for like 5 years, the last 5 years, and I don't know why they can't get that one right. I'm not going to slap any sense into them because, like I said, they have no market share. Nobody buys their stupid game. They can't get it right. They're just pissing money down a hole, but that's their business. Nobody's, losing any sleep or losing jobs because of it. I would like to see EA get that game right because I think competition's healthy, but right now Take-Two has a monopoly. Well, we have a question from SIFTD from Jake 3103, kind of similar to one we've answered before. Do you think 600 is a fair price point for Oculus hardware? How long until after launch will the price drop? How long after launch until the price drops? I would say that Facebook is determined to win, and so I think that Oculus will be the most competitively priced head-mounted display on the market, and for as long as they can do it. It depends. If the PlayStation headset comes out at $500 a month later, then Oculus is dropping to $500. I think that matters to them, and they're going to compete. If the PlayStation headset comes in at $1,000, then I don't think Oculus feels any need to drop, and they'll drop the price only as they come down the cost curve. So I think their initial, several million ship, 1 or 2 or 3 million ship, they'll lose $100 and they'll tough it out. I think they'll try to price it wholesale at about cost for the next 2 or 3 or 5 million. And I think they will only try to make money once they've established a very large market, and that's going to take probably a couple of years. So I would say probably no price cut unless a competitive head-mounted display is out there at a lower price. So if Vive is cheaper, Sony is cheaper, then yes. If those are both more expensive, then no. So impossible for me to answer that question in a vacuum without knowing what the other two guys are going to do. Our next question this week is from SIFTD from Punch Drunk. Microsoft recently announced Crackdown 3 as a summer 2016 release for multiplayer only. Given that Microsoft has its own early access type platform, do you think it makes sense for Microsoft to release Crackdown 3 in early access? Does it make sense for other publishers to make use of early access for the AAA console release in the future? I may be looking at this wrong, but I've always thought that betas in console games make sense. And I've always thought not necessarily open betas, but closed betas for sure make sense. Get several thousand people to play your game and figure out what's wrong, because it's impossible for quality testers to actually do every single thing you can do in a game and do it so repeatedly. If you watched another episode, I've got a glitch in my Fallout, and I don't know how to fix it, and I don't know where to go. And so, looking for your help. But the point is that there's a glitch that they didn't catch. I actually got two. One stranded at the Institute, and the other is I can't get my companion to follow me. But Fallout, I'm sure, was very heavily tested, but not in beta. So I think every game benefits from beta. I think early access, particularly in multiplayer, you're going to get battle tested. So you're going to have a game that goes through everything. You morons out there who play these games, you are going to come up with stuff you can do that no one else will ever think of. And the only way you're ever going to test everything is have several thousand people in a beta. So if you call the beta early access and you somehow charge for it or reward the people that pay you the most money, your Xbox Live Gold members or whatever. You can have a contest and have somebody win early access, or an EA Access member or something. Someone who pays you $50, $60 a year though, because Xbox Live Gold does. Then sure. I mean, that's an extended beta. You can do it for as long as you want, 4 weeks ahead of time, a month ahead of time, and most developers now are very good at tweaking on the fly. So I've had questions in former editions of Pack Attack about day one patches and are they a good idea. You pretty much can't get a day one patch unless you find the damn mistake in the code within 30 days of launch. So how are you going to find the mistake in the code within 30 days without having people testing the game? And I'd say run a beta about 8 weeks out. Let 100,000 people in, because you're going to get a lot of buzz. You're going to find everything wrong with the game. Patch the game 4 weeks out. So when it goes to when it goes gold, they call it, when it goes to the console manufacturer for production, the game is flawless and you don't have a day one patch. That's what I would do. I think it makes total sense. God knows what Microsoft's going to do, but I think that it's something that I know everybody at Microsoft dutifully watches Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. So I'm calling you out, Phil Spencer. I need you to put Crackdown in early access because Punch Drunk on SIFTD wants to play it. So that's my answer. All right, we have a question this week from SIFTD.net from Sound Wizard. Considering that millions of dollars are spent for celebrity voiceover and likenesses in video games, are there actually any figures to prove or disprove the benefits of such an investment? Figures, no. And the reason there aren't is that, let's just say, you sell 20 million copies of Call of Duty because Kiefer Sutherland's voice was in there, right? How do you know if you would have sold 18 million or 22 million if you had some unknown actor doing the voiceover? Or, I remember there was a big selling add-on a couple of years ago, Snoop Dogg doing voiceover. Would the game have sold more if Snoop Dogg had been the original and Kiefer Sutherland had been the add-on pack? I don't know. You can't prove it because you can't take the game back and then do it without Kiefer Sutherland and see how it sold in a parallel universe. So we don't know, but the truth is, and I have to say, I remember, I think it was San Andreas or Vice City. It's like Ray Liotta was the voice, remember, of the main character. And it's like, most people don't even know who Ray Liotta is. He's in a TV show now called Shades of Blue for all you people who are under 30 and didn't see Goodfellas. But, Ray Liotta is like a 60-year-old actor who's probably not that well known among the video game crowd. But Take-Two, Rockstar, cast him as the voice in San Andreas because he's Italian and sounds like a gangster, and they wanted an Italian gangster. It wasn't San Andreas, it must have been one of the other ones. But they wanted a gangster-sounding dude, so he was the guy. And I think also he's an actor, so he's good at reading scripts and reading lines and sounding convincing. So I'm not so sure that these guys do it to get a celebrity that you identify with and want to go buy the game because Ellen Page is your favorite actress, so you got to play Last of Us because the character looks like Ellen Page. I think it's more that you want realistic sounding voice work. And that's where Nolan North, who is not exactly a household name, among TV watchers, but is a household name among gamers. He's just great. He does great voice work. You guys all know Mark Hamill did the Joker in Batman Arkham Asylum. And other than reading it in gaming publications, I don't think anybody was like, oh, that sounds just like Mark Hamill. No, they said, oh, that sounds like a terrifying and realistic Joker. And that made the Joker a scarier character who you wanted to destroy even more and made the game more fun to play. So I really think most voiceover is to make the game just be more authentic and have high quality actors like Nolan North and Mark Hamill doing voices that are convincing and fit the character in the game. The likeness stuff tends to be more for movie themed releases. So obviously, a James Bond game with Daniel Craig's character would seem more like Bond than just some generic brown-haired guy. So you put the blonde guy with the blue eyes in there and make him look like Daniel Craig, and it feels more like Bond. So I do think, again, that helps sell units, but again, impossible to quantify. And your question was, are there any figures to prove or disprove the benefits? I would say table stakes, you need good voice work if you're going to have a story-driven game, and so you might as well pay a professional to do it. I can't tell you that it's worth paying more for Kiefer Sutherland than some other actor, but I'm not even sure you pay Kiefer Sutherland more. I think he just likes doing video games because he thinks it's cool. So my guess is he really doesn't cost any more than anybody else that can do it and do a good job as a good actor. Keep the questions coming in. Send them to me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. Copy at SIFTD Games. Use the hashtag PachterFactor, and we will answer everyone. If we don't do it on the show, I'll answer them directly. So keep them coming in. Thanks very much.